Hi, guys, and welcome back to our Women in Technology Speaker Series. Today, we're so excited to be chatting with three leading women working at Citi, the leading financial institution which provides consumers, corporations, governments, and other institutions with a broad range of financial services and products. So we've got Rose, Iana, and Amber all with us today, who I'm sure will offer a range of viewpoints. We can hear about their various experiences working as women in technology, and particular in the banking sector. So yeah, firstly, it'd be great to just get a little introduction from each one of you, maybe a brief background overview. Iana, maybe do you want to start us off, or whoever wants to go first?
I'll be the biased one to UCD. I've studied kind of everything in UCD so far. So I've just finished my another degree in Smurfit as well. So I'm very subjective. But my background is actually more finance. But kind of I've started in JP Morgan in funds. It's a bit kind of more operation side, and then gradually moved into the more kind of how. By thinking, okay, how do I make this better and so on. So I kind of moved into the technology side to be able to improve with things and make things better and faster. So that's how I got into IT, not necessarily because of my degree. But I think from my point of view, I've always liked data. So kind of when I try to convince somebody, that's kind of the point where I go to, because it's easier. It's black and white. This is how you should go for it. And kind of within Citi and IT, I do kind of more on the work with the trading desk, which is a bit different. But I'm actually a business analyst, so I'm not a developer, but I would do a lot of kind of data analysis from the point of view of how do you improve kind of our profit, how do you make things better from the point of view of the system being faster, so things like that.
Cool. Amber, do you want to go next?
Absolutely. Thanks, Molly. And Sam, yeah, it's great to be here to speak to everybody in DataSoc this evening. But just a short introduction to myself. My name's Amber Higgins. I describe myself as an engineer with a passion for cybersecurity and an ambition to make a difference. It was this passion and this ambition that led me to join Citi 2 years ago. I joined out of Trinity College straight after my master's. 2 years ago this week, and my role in Citi is as a distributed ledger technology engineer in the Citi Innovation Lab in Dublin. So that's been a really exciting role, really enjoying it.
Great. Rose, would you like to?
Yeah, so my name is Rose Cotter. So I am a product and program manager for the FX trading technology group. So I look after a lot of global connectivity with venues across the globe, really. So I joined Citi about 5 years ago as a technology graduate and have been with Citi then, all in Dublin, for the last 5 years really.
Brilliant. So Amber, if I'm not wrong, I think you're the most recent one to join Citi, is that right?
Sounds like it, for sure.
Yeah. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the process of how did you find the process of joining Citi? How did you find the application process as a technical applicant?
The application process, it's a good question. And it's an important one, I think, when you're applying to any company to know what to expect. I suspect it'll probably vary a little bit between different departments, but for me, it was a great experience. I had 2 interviews, I suppose. When I applied, they took place probably about 2 weeks after I applied. I had an interview first with people from my prospective team, who I've ended up working with since, and with a member of senior management. And I really liked, I suppose, in the interviews, I got a real sense of the place that I'd be working in, who I'd be working with, the opportunities that were there. I came out of the interviews feeling really good about, that I wanted to work with these people and on these problems. And after that, it was pretty smooth sailing from when I accepted the offer. I guess with any application process, it's just about being patient and all of that too. But if you like the role and you like the people you're working with, I think is a really important thing. I really liked the people from the interview. I think go for it in general.
Yeah, and as an engineer, what made you decide to work in the financial industry?
Well, I suppose for me, it's always been important, I suppose, to use my, I'm an engineer by background. I studied engineering in Trinity College. As I said, and just graduated a couple of years ago. But it was always very important for me to use my engineering skills to make a positive difference. And my main area, that I really care about, and that, that's my real passion, is cybersecurity. So when I saw the role, I suppose, for distributed ledger technologist, which is around blockchain and other distributed technologies, in the Citi Innovation Lab, it seemed like a perfect fit for me. When I came in and talked to everybody, as well, it's the financial services sector in general. There's a lot of change happening, I suppose, at the moment, and there's a lot of work to do. And Citi, being a leading firm in financial services and really focused on making that change and doing the best for our clients and everything there, I think it was a perfect fit for me of, what I'm passionate about, which is cybersecurity, and distributed ledger technology very well fits with that, but also the opportunities that are there to really make a difference to the financial ecosystem and beyond. So that was, really why I decided to join Citi as an engineer.
Brilliant. I think it's really cool to hear about companies working on new technology like distributed ledgers and all that, and we definitely want to hear more about the Innovation Centre, so we'll come back to that at some point. But Molly, do you want to move on to the next question?
Yeah. Rose, I might move on to you. I think from your LinkedIn, anyway, if I'm correct, you've spanned a good few leadership roles during your time at Citi. So you've been there probably for the longest, I think, potentially out of the three of you. Do you want to just tell us a bit about maybe the different roles you've covered, or kind of how one led into the next? Do you think there's a lot of room for sort of progression at Citi? Is that something they support? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So since I'm at Citi, I've had 3 separate roles. I think one of the things that kind of drew me to Citi initially was kind of the global aspect of it. So Citi, obviously being one of the largest banks in the world, has offices everywhere, meaning you get to work with so many different people. So even when I joined Citi, there was a great amount of mobility, even within the Dublin site itself. So my first role was working in security fund services. So I was working on defect management and that kind of space, then moving on to kind of an onboarding specialist. So technology onboarding, onboarding new clients into the prime brokerage space. So I worked with clients all across the world, with teams all across the world, working with trading desks to onboard basically brand new clients to Citi. And now in my current role, which I've been in now for just over 2 years, I think, I work basically with the FX technology team. So I work directly with traders, with venues, with a large amount of basically technology groups across the world. But yeah, I think one of the things that really drew me to Citi was the mobility. And I think that's something that's kept me here, even 5 years later, is that I didn't expect to spend 5 years anywhere. But the fact, I think, that I can move around between roles within Citi, even if it's just Citi Dublin, has been one of the huge factors of, I suppose, retention, if that makes sense.
Yeah, of course. I think that's always such an important part of kind of feeling motivated in your work, is that, like, there's something else, and there's something coming next. But yes, Sam, do you want to ask Iana a question there?
Sure. So Iana, Rose kind of mentioned it there when she said that as a really global company that Citi is, do you do a lot of work with maybe outside of Ireland with teams in other locations, or is it kind of mostly in Ireland?
No, I actually am the only person in Ireland from my team. There is literally nobody else. So it's a good question because I actually don't have anyone. So like, even when with the pandemic that happened, it was so interesting to see that everyone's like, it's so hard for everyone to be on screen all the time. I'm like, yeah, that's every day for me for the past 3 years. So welcome to the club. But I don't think even like with the pandemic, it's proven that it's possible. Like, it doesn't really matter where people are. You can work with anyone in the world. I work with the trading desks in New York, London, and Hong Kong mainly, but we have a few kind of additional trading desks. So like, I have been able to travel. So I've been to London, I've been to New York, kind of to Belfast in terms of like kind of support teams and stuff. But it doesn't matter. It's more around, are you able to find a common ground and make sure that you can bring your point across and kind of make sure that you know your stuff. So if you know what you're talking about, people will listen to you. and listen to your advice as well. And I think sometimes it's just a matter of knowing who you're talking to and bringing in the right approach, right? If you have somebody that's quite senior, they're not going to want to know the detail. They just want to know if you do it this way, it's the right way, and this is how much money they're going to save, or this is how much faster the traders will be able to work. Or this is how much faster the system will work and the clients will be happier, right? There's different angles. It just makes sure that it's a matter of knowing your product and how to make it better, and making sure that then everyone else is happy. And if there is a problem, that you are looking to fix it.
Yeah, and I guess my next question is, it was just going to be about whether you do a lot of travel and stuff. Obviously, in the current situation, you don't. But I guess instead of that, is there any particular project that comes to mind if I asked you to give me an example of an interesting challenge that you had to get over in the past few years in your role at Citi?
Yes. Yeah, I think that the kind of the challenge was more so. The project is, when I joined Citi, this project has already been going on for like 2 years. So I came in kind of new, and obviously so there was another BA that was the main person. So when that guy left, I had to take over, and because everyone was already on good terms with him, when he left, it was hard for people to warm up to me. It's like, oh, this new person, okay, fine, she doesn't know what she's talking about. So it is a challenge when you're taking over something that somebody has already been running for a while. It's, you're building your credibility, and kind of how do you show that you can actually do it. And I think sometimes it's kind of knowing the right people and like talking to people and understanding what are the actual challenges and how do you go about like solving the problem, because that's all it is, right? Like you're just trying to make things better for everyone. So I think it's more, sometimes relationships can make a huge impact. So like from my point of view, being on screen is one thing, but being able to go to New York and go to London and build that kind of personal kind of rapport kind of makes a huge difference. And for people that are lucky to be in the same place, it's about going for coffee, right? Like that can make such a huge difference. Like go for coffee with the person and get kind of like understand why. Like if it doesn't seem like they like you or they don't kind of agree with you, why do they not agree with you, right? There's always a reason. It's not necessarily always the project. They might have had a bad day that day, and they're like, I don't want to listen to her, like, just go away. They've had, I don't know, the kids cried the whole night and they didn't want to really have a call with you at 8 o'clock in the morning, right? So it's kind of understanding kind of the situations. And that can sometimes help a lot, because they might be like, look, I don't want to call, like once you build a relationship, you're going to be like, okay, 8 o'clock does not work for this person. I'll have a call with them at 2 p.m. They'll be in a better mood. They would have had their lunch, had their coffee, like there's kind of things. So I think that's kind of the challenge, is understanding, because if you're talking about like technical, there's always somebody else that knows. It's just about making sure you know who to ask the right questions. And the social part is usually the harder challenge.
I think that was a very good answer. I might move back to the question. So similar question for Amber or Rose, whoever kind of wants to jump in, just in terms of maybe if there's a project that springs to mind, even, whichever one of you wants to start off, a project that like stands out to you from your time at Citi as being maybe your favorite, particular role you had. Don't know who wants to jump in.
I can, I think. So I think last year I was working on a really big, so there's kind of two projects that somehow interlinked. One was a major data center migration. So in Japan, we have a data center. We needed to move it to basically a brand new data center. But this was basically over 100 plus servers across like 12 different applications, all within the production environment. So all very key to keeping the FX technology running in APAC. So it was probably one of the biggest headaches I've ever had, trying to deal with it. We had a very short timeline to be able to complete it by the end, so 31st of December 2019. So I've been pretty much working up then till New Year's Day, trying to make sure it was done and dusted. Basically, yeah, there's a lot of management, a lot of complexities, and especially never working on kind of data centers or anything to do in that realm before meant a lot of learning, but also a lot of, I think, kind of leading into Iana's point, is a lot of people management and even your soft skills, being able to work with different groups of people from different regions, all to try and basically reach the same end result. I think one other kind of part of that project was we had another initiative then, which was to basically build a brand new data center in Singapore during that same period. Generally, data center builds are over a year, 2 years. There's a lot of work involved in it. Our team wanted it done in 6 months. So basically it meant a lot of people all working hand in hand within a very short period to basically get a cage in a data center to something up and running within 6 months. So it was a hectic year, but it's probably two of like my proudest like work accomplishments were just within that last year of so much going on, but also big kind of praises and big successes out of it.
Yeah, I think it's really cool that like the thing you've enjoyed the most is actually when you had to learn the most and maybe like didn't know that much before you started that particular project. I feel like that's something that's so important in like loving what you do. Amber, do you have any?
Exactly.
Do you have a project that might spring to mind? Same kind of question.
In terms of, well, it's when I think of projects, we work, I think, on an awful lot of projects in the Innovation Lab. We're kind of at a point in the organization where we have a lot of people from clients to, you know, internal partners coming to us with problems, and they can be all kinds of problems. They don't necessarily even have to be technical problems. So I'm working at any time on 7 or 8 different projects, I'd say. So there's been a lot of different ones I worked on since I joined. I've had a lot of interesting experiences this year working on a couple of marketing projects, which are really about, I suppose, showcasing what we do. And that's something, you know, that I've had a lot of learnings from. Has been challenging as well, of course, but it's been very rewarding and everything too. And, you know, I think technical skills, anybody, you know, an engineer will always have great technical skills, I suppose. And everything too, but as Iana touched on, and Rose as well, you know, the people management and kind of managing stakeholders and dealing with different parts of the business and all of that is really a huge part of the job, and, you know, solving these problems and bringing a technical mindset to all of that can be really useful. But yeah, no, in terms of projects, I think ones where I've really learned a lot and which have been particularly challenging for me because they were out of my comfort zone were around marketing our solutions, one of which actually has gone live just in the last day or so, our virtual innovation lab. So that's actually out there for people to visit and take a look at as well.
Cool. That's very cool. Sam, do you want to hop in with the next one there?
Yeah, so Amber, as a graduate in, is it computer engineering?
Computer engineering, correct.
Yeah. Do you find yourself applying much of what you learned in college, or is a lot of what you do day to day something that you picked up?
It's a very good question, I think, Sam. And just in terms of, I guess, I do use everything that I learned in college. As an engineer, I use that every single day. And college, you know, and all of the kind of engineering teaching that I got in the 5 years that I was in Trinity has stood to me, no matter what situations I've dealt with, definitely in a technical capacity, because I'm working as an engineer on a team of, you know, a technical team that's delivering technology solutions, but also, you know, it is very useful when you're dealing with other different areas and everything as well. So I have picked up some skills, I would say, you know, by virtue of working in an organization where banking is actually the core business, and technology is supporting that core business objective. I've picked up a lot of kind of new knowledge around financial services. I've picked up a lot of knowledge around, you know, working with global teams, and project management. And, you know, in a big organization, there is a lot of, you know, it's very different to a smaller organization, maybe, that others might be familiar with, in terms of, you know, there's a lot of people there, there's a lot of structure, there's a lot of things, you know, there's a lot of opportunities, and there's a lot of problems and everything there as well. So you do learn a lot from dealing with all of that, I would say. So the last 2 years have been a great learning experience for me, but my engineering education has stood to me absolutely every single day. So it really has benefited me a lot.
Brilliant. I guess this is kind of a similar question from Adam here, who's watching. I'll just bring it up on screen. So Adam is asking what technical or general skills you think someone who wants to apply to the technology unit in Citi should develop.
Yeah, so I can cover that from kind of something we've done. There's a few programs within Citi that we run. I know one is like more long-term. It's like a 2-year one that Rose has joined through. There's one that's like a shorter term. It's like 6 to 9 months. And I think within that, we actually had a session with UCD recently on this as well. But from kind of the person that was running the program, what he had mentioned, and I think it stuck with me, is that it's not necessarily that they want to see the drive in you when they're interviewing you. They want to see that, say maybe like if it's a tech program, they want to see that some form of coding, or one particular language maybe that's more popular or that you're very good at, and then they will teach you the rest of it, right? That's where you're applying like as a student. It's kind of a different ballgame when you're looking for more experienced roles, but if you're a student and you're applying, you just need to show your drive, like how have you kind of progressed and pushed yourself throughout as a student, for projects, for whatever it is. It's about examples. So bring your examples with you of how did you do that.
Yeah, and your soft skills are very important as well. So even working as a team, your communication skills, all of these, people are trying to see if you fit into the culture of Citi. You work with a lot of global teams, you work with a lot of teams within Dublin, and just your own, whatever your localized team. Do you want to see if you're able to work with those people, work with the other graduates? So even looking at a lot of like competency questions, do you have things that you can fill in those examples with? So where you've had conflict management, all of those generalized skills are sometimes, I think, overlooked in terms of soft skills, as well as your technical skills, but they are both very important to go hand in hand, especially in the likes of a graduate program.
Actually, just on that, one question I was actually going to ask anyway was just what are kind of the main technologies that you guys would find yourselves using on a day-to-day basis, or even if there's a specific programming language that you think could be most commonly used on your teams? Whoever wants to.
I don't know. I think so. Our application, that what I work on is kernel developed, but I don't actually know much. So I don't know if Amber maybe knows.
I guess, well, I can speak from the Citi Innovation Lab perspective, which may not be, we deal with a lot of technologies kind of that are emerging and that as well. But I think in general, across the organization, from my knowledge, Java and .NET and all of those would be quite popular technologies, just in general, across application teams. For us in the lab, then we use kind of, as I say, a lot of kind of emerging technologies. So in my team, where we're working with the distributed ledger technologies, we're obviously experimenting with a lot of those and, building applications on a lot of those. Which one we use depends really on what problem we're trying to solve. So examples would be R3 Corda, Hyperledger Besu, different DLTs you may have heard of. We also work with key management technology for cryptographic key management. They're quite specialized kind of technologies that we work with. As well as that, I suppose, we obviously develop applications. They have quite a diverse tech stack, but we deploy them as, containerized microservices in general as well. So things like OpenShift and that would be the kind of technologies we'd use there. So no, a very diverse mix.
Brilliant.
Definitely an exciting place to get into. I think if you're passionate about technology, there's such a range there.
Absolutely.
So we have another question here from Emma. I'll just bring it up. Maybe one of you guys can answer it. So does Citi support employees who want to transfer to different parts of the business, or are you set in whatever particular area you join?
I think Rose is a pure example of being able to move around.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think even if you join as a graduate, I think it's just important to note for the graduate program, you do 2 rotations. So even once you join, you're generally with a team for a year, but in your second year, then you're rotated to a totally different area. So you are encouraged to test out other areas, see what fits best. And yeah, if you are looking to join another group, another business area, like for me, I've joined 3 totally different business areas, and I've only been supported through all of those moves. There is never really an issue. It is generally encouraged. Internal mobility is something that's really highly pushed. I think they'd want to see, or Citi wants to retain the staff rather than lose them altogether. So if they can put you somewhere else where you think you'll fit better or that you're way more interested in, there's always the move for internal mobility. But there is also the likes of job shadowing. Even if you're not 100% sure, okay, is this the move I really want to make? Of if I said, okay, well, do I really want to work in FX? But I could easily just job shadow somebody and be like, okay, well, let me bore you with all the questions I have. Is this the right fit for my next move? But yeah, they're all about internal mobility. You're never stuck in the same area. If you don't want to be there, there's no point in you being there. You need to kind of take charge of your career, but Citi are behind you in that sense.
Absolutely agree with all of that. And I think one example that I could give from the lab, there's been different people I've known in the lab who have started out on one technology team coming in as an engineer like me, gone into a different area completely of technology within the lab, and then actually transferred into a role in the business side rather than technology side. So there is really a path for you to, as Iana and Rose have said, you can really, wherever you fit best, I suppose, and wherever you feel is the best fit for you and where your passion is and everything too. Citi is very supportive of getting you there, I think.
And I think it's also important to note, just from, like, if you don't think that career technologies work for you, or if you've been in technology long enough, there is also kind of different opportunity paths. I think Iana is a prime example of moving from operations to technology, but I've known a couple of people who have gone from technology to product, especially people who have really good people skills and really good communication skills, who can go into product development, so developing the next product to offer to clients. Those who go in but are able to have the skills to explain technical aspects in simple English, or just, don't want to say dumbed down version, but it's basic communication skills of how to deal with people who are non-technical. There is kind of a lot of moves in those directions as well, on top of just moves within technology itself.
Okay, I think just because it's the Women in Tech series, we like to ask 1 or 2 kind of questions at the end every time, basically. So yeah, just kind of wondering if any of you want to jump in, feel free, whoever feels inspired to speak. Just kind of wondering how you found specifically being a female in perhaps a male-dominated sector. I don't know specifically in Citi kind of what the ratio is like or how you find yourselves placed, but do you think that being a woman has ever affected your experiences in any way?
I can go on. I don't think that ever had any impact. I'll go on.
Oh no, sorry, it lagged for me. Go ahead.
No, like I was going to say that it hasn't from my point of view. And I think the only hard part that for me when I joined Citi was actually that I was the only one from my team locally. So it was hard to figure out, like, okay, where's HR, where's the medical center, where's kind of things like the kind of basic things. But I think quite early on, somebody had mentioned that there is the women's network, Women in Technology network actually as well. So I've actually joined the network straight away, and that was quite important for me because it has actually helped to meet so many people. It makes a huge difference in terms of kind of, knowing people. And that's actually one thing that I saw question there around kind of what sets Citi apart. In my previous role, I was with another big bank, international bank that is not a bank within Ireland, and they didn't really have that, where Citi does. And it's that network that if I want to move into another role, I know that I can ask people that are across the board, different areas, to ask, should I move there? Is it worth going there? But kind of being, even within my team currently globally, I am actually the only girl. My boss used to be a woman, but now it's a guy, and everyone else is a guy. And I don't think that's ever really, like I'm quite a numbers person. But I'm a geek So like the numbers says it all. If the number says it's right, then it's right, and you can't convince me it's not. So that's kind of my view. Like if I know that I'm right, I will tell you that I'm right, and you can't be right if the number says so. And I'm sticking to it. I don't know if the girls had any other kind of particular situation.
No, I totally agree with Iana's point. I think the only thing I'd seen really was, I think it's the same across the board, no matter what industry, is obviously diversity is a huge push, whether it be kind of gender, racial, etc. And it's definitely the case where it's the same with Citi. I'm quite lucky that all of my team is female, but within my whole e-trading technology group, we make up all of the females. So we're all in just one team. So it's just kind of the case then that I don't think there's ever been an issue with being a female in technology. I've been quite lucky, I think, in that sense, that I haven't really faced any kind of bias or any kind of misogyny for the most part. I do think one of the issues that I think are kind of common, especially when you join an organization and you're trying to look up the chain of senior management and you're not really seeing female representation. But I think it's a case that's been worked heavily against now at the moment. It was obviously very different when I first joined, when there was one senior female in my whole kind of organization, whereas now every day there's somebody new being promoted. Like our new global head of FX technology is a female. So it's always good to see that kind of representation being delivered at the higher levels, and being, I suppose, the retention and stuff up through the middle layers on top of that.
Yeah, no, they seem like all very positive reports, which is great to hear. Amber, do you have anything final you want to add in there? Or?
Yeah, no, to be honest, for me, it's been a great experience. I can't speak for other companies, of course, but I think Citi is a very diverse workforce, and everybody I work with is great. I actually don't even notice the difference in terms of that I'm female and others are males or whatever. Everybody's so supportive of each other's development and growth. It's that's one of the great things about working in Citi, I think, is that it is so diverse and everybody is so supportive of growth and development.
That's great.
Yeah, I'll just pop into the kind of the last point, is that our future CEO will be female. So, just to point it out there.
Yeah.
So Jane will be taking over from Mike. So, yeah, on the Wall Street. So.
Very good. So we'll just, I think we might be coming to a close, but I'll just ask this last question here. I think, Amber, you touched on it a bit, but what, in your opinion, sets Citi apart from other firms? Citi
is, I think, a really global organization. I think that is something that, for me, really sets it apart. For me, in a day, I could be working with somebody who's in Singapore or in Sydney, and in the same day, I could be working with somebody who's in, New Jersey, Los Angeles on the other side. So in that sense, it's hugely global. There's, with that, a lot of global opportunities to work with all of these people, work on problems across all of these regions, and work on building solutions with global impact. That was really one of the big draws for me about working with Citi, that it is so global, it's in so many countries, and it is working on problems to cover all of those regions, I suppose. So I think, for me, the global nature of Citi is the really standout thing for me about it as a company.
And guys, would you like to add anything to that?
No, I totally agree with Amber. That was kind of one of the main things that attracted me to Citi, was the global nature of it. Whether it be the opportunities to work in other countries, but also the fact that you'll be working with so many people from so many different, I suppose, backgrounds. The diverse nature of Citi just in general has also been really, I think, a selling point, and something that only kind of continues to become more and more so as kind of time goes on.
Yeah, and I think compared to other firms that I've been part of, it's just the scale of it. Like there's just so many more opportunities within Dublin locally, where for people that maybe don't want to, to move countries, they can be locally, get exposure to the global industries without having to actually move. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, it certainly seems like an exciting place to be located. I think we might finish it up there. They're all the questions, Sam, that have come in, are they?
Yeah, just someone saying thanks for the talk. So great. Guys, just before we do wrap up, for anyone watching who's interested in joining Citi, do you know much about the current process for looking for graduate opportunities or internships? Are you guys still recruiting? Are you aware?
Yeah, so we're still open
live,
at the
right?
moment. Yeah, so if you check out oncampus.citi.com, there will be bits there where you can check out for the Dublin site. So we have placements, which is generally 6 to 9 months in your third year or your penultimate year. And then our graduate program then, I think, is still open until the end of this month. I could be wrong, but I'm very sure it's still open. And yeah, you can apply for that. And that would be a 2-year program starting in September 2021, I believe.
Brilliant.
Thank you for that information. And yeah, no, guys, it's been a pleasure having you on. Thank you so much to all three of you for taking time out of your evening and everything. We've really gained some great insights, and yeah, it's been so lovely to meet you all. So thank you.
Thank you too, and likewise.
Thank you for having us.
It's been a pleasure.
Brilliant. So we'll wrap up here. Thank you so much, guys.
Bye, guys.